Hi, I'm Ash from DroningON, and this is part 2 of our QX90C quadcopter review. At less than £45 or $55, this new little drone has already impressed us, but now it's time for the flight test as we promised. In part 1, we closely inspected the QX90C, including a comparison with the earlier QX90. Links are in the video description for part 1 if you've not seen it already. So let's get on with the flight test footage, but first please help us to get to 3,000 subscribers by smashing that subscribe button now. You can also click the little icon next to that subscribe button to be the first to watch our newly uploaded videos as soon as they're available. Only 7% of our viewers click subscribe. Don't be that guy. So I've started with a basic range test, and you'll generally always be flying these micro FPV quadcopters within close vicinity, and so I tend to test flying them from inside the house down to the bottom of the garden. This is to test the FPV range as well as the control range. My failsafe is set so that the quadcopter will just drop to the ground if I lose connection. I'm recording the FPV footage via my Fat Shark SE goggles, and as you can see, the video quality is superb, with barely any breakup. I make it successfully to the very bottom of my garden without any video issues at all, and the quadcopter is handling just beautifully. I'm flying it in rate mode at the moment, and so I test out a little roll before heading back into the house, and my first impressions are really good. I can feel the power difference between this and the earlier version, the QX90. It's a really windy day as well outside, and yet this quad feels like it's got plenty of power to push straight through it, unlike the previous QX90 model. Next, it's time for an agility test, and it's the usual track, my house. Now I'm flying in horizon mode this time because full rate mode is a little bit too extreme for the close confines of a house. You may also notice that I've got prop guards attached onto the QX90C. They're actually the prop guards from the QX90, but they fit perfectly, and a link to them is in the video description. They're only a couple of dollars. The first thing that I notice is that when I'm flying in the slightly darker areas, you can see the blue LED glow from the flight controller picked up by the FPV camera sensor. Although it isn't too distracting when you're moving, it is visible in darker areas. Time to head up the stairs, and I do so with far more control than with any other micro drone that I've flown before. Now I must apologise at this point for the state of our house. We have a baby arriving in April, and so the room that you see now is currently being renovated. Please excuse the mess. Out of that room and into the other spare room, where the window of course is open, how convenient, and so I fly straight through it. You'll notice that still the FPV video is completely stable and reliable throughout the entire flight, with no breakup or loss of signal. Despite flying through this old late Victorian house, I am so impressed by that 25 milliwatt video transmitter. This thing flies so well, and it's so quick as well. Now, due to the wind, I struggled to get back through in the upstairs window, and so instead I chicken out and fly through the downstairs doors instead. And finally, a quick flight back through the house again. There is a tiny bit of interference there whilst I'm in the lounge, and also the blue LEDs become very visible again. It's a really windy day as well outside, and yet this quad feels like it's got plenty of power to push straight through it, unlike the previous QX90 model. A few more adventurous acrobatics in the garden, and then finally back into the house and a quick float in front of the mirror to check out this quad and how it looks. You can see me bouncing off the mirror here via the prop guards. I tried to show off once more by flying through the upstairs window, but this time it doesn't go quite according to plan, and I end up crashing. But it's been a really successful and long flight as well, spanning just under 5 minutes in total, and that includes the flight time not included in this video edit. That's really impressive for a 600 milliamp battery, and far longer than I ever experienced with the QX90. Of course, removing the prop guards would also give an even longer flight. And so I'll start the summary by stating clearly that this is the best FPV micro brushed quadcopter that I've ever flown. The included props are far more robust and a better fit than those on the previous QX90. And this version has loads more power. It can flip and acro without issue, whereas the previous QX90 really struggled to even roll. You get up to 5 minutes flight time per 600 milliamp battery, and these batteries are so cheap too. I've put links to suitable batteries in the video description. The redesigned frame also means that the motors, battery and cables are now protected. And finally, the motors are now pluggable instead of soldered, and that means that you can swap out a motor without needing to get out the soldering iron. Now on to the negatives. There aren't many, but they are still important. The VTX is not pluggable unfortunately, and it's still soldered onto the flight controller as before. The connection can be quite vulnerable there, so keep an eye on it. The QX90C comes flash with clean flight, same as the QX90, instead of Betaflight. It's not necessarily an issue, but it is a shame that Betaflight is not yet the standard, as it is preferred amongst most enthusiasts. There's no inbuilt camera tilt on the redesigned frame, although for most flying scenarios with these microquads, you rarely want any more tilt than standard. The blue flight controller LED can be a distraction during flight in darker areas. It's not necessarily an issue when you're flying, but it is noticeable in some context. And finally, there is no low battery or lost model buzzer built into the flight controller, but it's likely that the FC has pins available for one to be added. Without doubt, the model is capable of carrying that extra minor weight. So there you go, I hope that this review has been useful. The QX90C proudly takes the place of my other micro quadcopters, and I'd highly recommend this little machine for beginners and seasoned expert pilots. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this review, and also to hit that subscribe button too to support DroningON. That enables us to create even more reviews for you guys. Finally, drop us a comment below and share the video too. Thanks very much for watching.